My man, can you like let me tell you, like you're really a wonderful person, like so inspiring. Now, like we're talking about Olympics, we're talking about games, but could you like tell me, was there any moment in your life like you felt like I don't want to get up, like I just lost my thing, I don't want to get up, like I want to quit. Was there any moment in your life and what you did to get past that?
Plenty of moments, man. Plenty of moments. I grew up tough. I grew up rough. I grew up. I've probably seen more things at the age of 10 than most people in their 60s and 70s have seen. But I realized this in life. Every experience that we go through, even if we don't understand it initially, serves a purpose down the road. But we often don't know what that purpose may be until we get through those storms, right? When I was homeless at 13, for example, my mom and I were staying at a bus stop, right in the middle of wintertime. We came to Canada for a better life, and here we are looking like we took 70 steps backwards, right? And those were some dark times in my life. Didn't know where our next meal was going to be, didn't know where we were going to stay, didn't know what that even looked like, right? And even the mentality of some of the things that I had to overcome to be able to continue thinking that, I am expecting of good things, that I should have good things in my life. Because sometimes when you're in a dark spot, all you can see is the dark spot and you can't see the light. And when all you can see is the dark spot, your thoughts, they become dark too, right? But in that moment, I realized and learned the power of gratitude,
Yeah.
right? Even though that was such a dark time in my life, I was so grateful that I had my mom with me. I was so grateful that I had laces inside my shoes. I was so grateful that I had a winter jacket on. I was so grateful that the bus stop that we were staying at, right, had four big glasses, right, and the door could close. You know what I'm saying? So even in those moments, I realized this. So a person who is in a dark spot, it's a tough situation. You don't know how you're going to get through it, and you're just frustrated, panicking, thinking, man, take a moment, and I mean really take a moment and dig deep and say to yourself, what is one thing that I am grateful for today? Right? Just one thing. It doesn't matter how small it may be, right? Because when you're in a dark spot, you have to shift your mindset in a way that allows you to think a positive thought. A positive thought can lead you to a positive action. Even if you only have one positive thought, that can be enough to help you get through that day,
You.
right? And once you can get up, right? If you're having a tough spot, you're in the bed and you're thinking, man, geez, I don't know how I'm going to get up today and finish through this day. Bills may be piling up, pressure from here and there. It's like, man, if you wake up and you say, wow, I woke up in a bed today, okay, that is something to help pick you up, right? If you wake up and you say, man, like I woke up with clothes today, that is something to pick your feet up and get it on the ground, right? Gratitude is about momentum. Positive thoughts is about energy current, right? Once you bring the momentum and you bring it with positive energy, man, that will help you, right? Start with gratitude so it helps your state of mind to think positive, and that will lead to one positive action, right? I never in my life try to build Rome all in one day. It doesn't work, right? I try and move with the strength that I have for that day. I look at it like this, Harpreet, before we move on, man. Whether your phone is charged to 100% or 1%, it still works the same, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So as long as it doesn't die, it's still going to work the same. So as long as you have breath in your body, even if your situation isn't ideal, if you continue to show up, something good will happen, because I'm telling you right now, every season has an expiration date, and you do not know when the season of hardship is turning its course, right? I have a saying from a song that I always say to myself when I'm having a hard moment, man. It goes like this, it's turning around for me, right? And I would repeat that, it's turning around for me, it's turning around for me. There are some things that I've been saying that same sentence for 4 years now. It hasn't come yet, but I believe it's turning around for me in this area, right? So that's what I would say to that question, man.
Wow. Man, I also remember like you mentioned in your book, like you were sharing your personal story, and that's why like let me tell you, like I really loved your book, and one of the reason is that like you really shared your personal story, like you didn't try to hide anything, man. And there was one moment like in your childhood, you said your family couldn't afford to have food, your family couldn't afford to have a light in the house, and then you had a 2-year-old brother who was asking, "Hey man, like why we don't have any lights?" Man, how old were you like when that happened?
So I was in high school, so I was about 15, 16. Um, man, it was one of those positions where I didn't want him to grow up too early, like I had to,
Yeah.
right? Because I believe as kids, a, a young child should have a childhood, right? And so for me, in that moment, the exact story you're talking about, you know, I knew the situation of what it was. I knew where the future was going. I knew that something was about to come. You see, when you are in and you find like so much friction coming your way, like so much pull, right? So much chaos. Usually there's a breakthrough coming around the corner. And this is the time when you have to hold on, right? So when he was saying, why didn't we have lights? I switched the mindset of saying, oh man, this is just a game, right? This is just a game, right? And here's the game. Whoever turns the light on first, that person loses the game,
Wow.
right? So I turned it into a game, even though reality is, even if you turned on the light, we wouldn't have had any either, right? But I wanted him to still have that joyful presence of a child, right? Because I never really had that growing up. My path was a little bit different, right? But when you look at the youth, you can find joy in them, right? And it's a hard time for them right now, especially with the pandemic and all these other things. But the youth should always, and we must do our best as people to never allow them to lose that spirit of joy, right? Because joy is something you can take with you in good times, in dark times. You can always have joy. And so for him in that situation, I wanted him to be a kid. Let's treat the situation like a game,
Yeah.
right? And so rather than tears coming down, it's laughter. It's laughter, right? And so for me, man, that was kind of that whole situation behind that. I just wanted to trick him into thinking that this whole thing was a game, so he didn't have to ask other questions like, man, why is our hot water off as well too?
Wow, man. And I understand that, like, and I also agree that you wanted him to have childhood moments, but you were child yourself, brother, at that time. Even if you're saying that, like, you grew up fast, but you were like
Absolutely.
14, 16 years old, brother. Did you like were stronger, or you look yourself stronger in front of me? What was that, man?
Man, my perspective shifted, right? From an early age, I had always been asking myself questions like, man, what is the purpose of life? Right? I was asking those questions early. And so for me, my perspective shifted early because I had to endure some of the hardships. So my view on the world was a little bit different, right? You don't know necessarily what age you are when life forced you to grow up early,
Oh yeah.
right? So you may say, oh, this is a 15-year-old person, but I may have been 15, but I felt like I had the mindset of someone who was 30, right? And I always, people say it to me all the time, Akeem, you have an old soul. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm saying? Like, what does that mean? And so, but what that meant to me was the fact that I just viewed the world differently. My perspective was different. But there was a lot of things that I had to work out within myself. When you see things you shouldn't have seen early in your life, you develop certain things and certain barriers, and you don't let people in. I was at to a point where I didn't really trust people too much because everybody that said that they wanted to help me in this position, they would let me down, or it would come in a sense of, man, I want something back from you down the road. So I never really let too many people in, right? Like um, my high school teacher who I spoke about earlier, you know, I didn't fully trust that man until I was like 17, 18, and I met him when I was 15. But I saw that he was consistent because I knew that he cared about Akeem the person and not Akeem the athlete, right?
Mm.
Because most people treated that as two different people, even though they're both one and the same. It's the same person. So, man, everything that I went through and go through, it took me a while to be able to fully adjust my mindset and my frame and realize that, you know, I can't go through life by myself.